Welcome to Showcasing Churches, where I usually interview Christian pastors or leaders, or I do a topic of teaching. Today, my guest wasn't able to show up due to a family death. He was out of state. So I pondered what kind of show to do. Well, I thought we have Christmas coming up. Maybe people would be interested in angels. Then I thought, well, we don't have to wait till Christmas because angels are around 24/7. But while I was pondering this, a very interesting confirmation came. I was going to shampoo my rugs, but I was having a bit of a trouble with my carpet cleaner. So I called the carpet company, and guess who answered? A woman, and her name was Angel. Even funnier than that, she had previously worked for Dirt Devil and had to answer, "Hi, this is Dirt Devil, Angel speaking." Then the next day, when I went to the dentist, there were magazines as usual, but there was never books there. So here was a book written by Billy Graham on angels, and the dentist said I could keep it. So I thought this was a bit more than a coincidence. So today I'm going to do a show on angels. So like myself, have you ever wondered about angels? What are they like? What do they do? Do they have wings and fly? Do they play harps or trumpets? Do they sing? How strong are they? What do they look like? Where do they live? How many are there? Do they eat? I will read from the Bible some verses that will give us answers to at least some of these questions. First, though, I want to address something, misconception that we often have, because we often see these images of what angels are supposed to look like. In my hand, I hold one of these little cupids or cherub-like images, and which are supposed to represent angels. Here, I have a much stronger, vigorous, warlike angel. And so I believe this is a more accurate representation of what angels actually look like, or at least some of the angels. So here's a brief description of some of them. They are strong. They praise God. They have names like Gabriel, Michael. They stand in the presence of God. They can take human form. They can eat like they did with Lot and Abraham. And they are different from men and God. And they don't marry. Angels are strong. In Matthew 28:2-4, it says, "And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him, the keepers did shake and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not, for I know you seek Jesus who is crucified." And of course, this is talking after Jesus had been buried in the tomb. So here we see, as in other times, the angel said, "Be not afraid." So would we be afraid if we saw this little cherub? I don't think so. Some say the stone to the tomb weighed 1 to 2 tons. So wouldn't it take somebody of major strength to be able to move such a large stone? In Luke chapter 2:8-10, it says, "The shepherds were also told to be afraid. And they were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks at night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were so afraid. And the angel said to them, Fear not, for behold, I bring good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people." In Acts chapter 5, verse 19, when the apostles were thrown into jail after doing healings and signs and wonders, it says, "During the night, the angel of the Lord opened the prison doors and brought them out." This act by an angel not only falls under the categories of angels being strong, but them also being protectors. Now, what kind of angels are they, and do we think they're all the same? In books and artwork, we usually see angels with 2 wings. However, in the Bible, we see more descriptions of different kinds of angels. Angels can be described differently according to their type and the role they play. I won't take time now to go into a lot of descriptions about angels, as to their type due to the time limitations on this program and the fact that I really want to study this a little bit more myself before doing another presentation. I will instead just read a few verses about the archangel, the seraphim, and the cherubim. In Isaiah 6, verse 2, it describes the seraphim. Above him stood the seraphim. Each has 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face. With 2 he covered his feet. And with 2 he flew. In Jude 1:9, it talks about an archangel. But when the archangel Michael, contending with the devil, was disputing about the body of Moses, he did not presume to pronounce a blasphemous judgment, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Genesis 3:24 talks about cherubim. So he drove out the man and placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So there they were guards. Exodus 25:20 gives some description of how the cherubim were used in the tabernacle. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat with their wings, their face one to another. For the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. Now, so how many angels are there? Hebrews 12:22 says, "But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels of joyful assembly." Another translation says, "innumerable angels." Revelation 5:11 says, "Then I looked and heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of angels, numbering myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands." So there's more than a few up there. Now, what are the roles of angels? Hebrew 1:14 says, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" One way they serve is to protect. So Psalms 91:11 says, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." And this is repeated again in the New Testament, where in Luke 4:10 it says, "For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you to guard you." Psalms 34:7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them." Exodus 23:20, "Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared." Acts 12:11, "When Peter came to himself, he said, 'Now I'm sure that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from the hand of Herod and from all that the Jewish people were expecting.'" Daniel 6:22, "My God sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you, O king, I have done no harm." So you see where they were able to shut lions' mouths. Matthew 18:20, "See that you didn't despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of the Father who is in heaven." So there's a warning not to be harming any children, because their angels see what's going on. Angels also ministered to Jesus. So, he was tempted in the garden and all that. Then the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and were ministering to him. Okay, angels can also be messengers. In Luke 1:19, "And the angel answered him, 'I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and bring you this good news.'" In Genesis 19, it says, as an example of angels also bring messages of warning. As the angels appearing to men, they appeared like men to tell Lot to leave the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, because it was going to be destroyed. Lot's wife does not heed the warning to escape and not look back, so she's turned into a pillar of salt when she actually looks back. Another warning comes in Matthew 2:12 and 13 to Joseph. After being warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and be there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So warnings from angels can be where the angel is present or the angel appears in a dream. A message from an angel, however, isn't always a warning. In Acts chapter 8, Philip is directed to go to Gaza. Starting in verse 26, it says, And the angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, Arise, and go toward the south unto the way that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza, which is a desert. And he arose and went and beheld a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority, under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had charge of all of her treasures. And he had come to Jerusalem to worship, was returning and sitting in his chariot, reading Elias the prophet. Then the Spirit said to Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran unto him, and heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, Understand thou what you're reading? And he said, that the Ethiopian talking back to Philip, How can I, except some man should guide me? So Philip explained the passage. The Ethiopian then says he believes that Jesus is the Son of God, and Philip baptizes him. Now, if you want to read this exciting story, continue reading till the end of chapter 8 in the book of Acts. What I like about this is not only does the Lord send angels to protect and give warnings through his messengers, but the angel even cared about the person trying to understand the scriptures. I also like that Philip is quick to obey and responds to the message, and he even runs to the chariot to help this man understand. Chapter 27 of Acts is the story of Paul being in a ship with others, where the tempest is so strong that they thought they would all lose their lives. In verse 22, Paul says, Now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me by night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul. Thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God has given you all them that sail with you. So he was protecting all the men that were with Paul. So here we have an encouragement Paul was able to pass on, that those on this tempest-stormed ship would survive because of the comforting angel giving this message. An angelic vision that may be familiar to most of us in the Bible is in the book of Matthew, where Joseph is wondering what to do after he knows that Mary, his espoused wife, is pregnant with child. In Matthew 2:19 it says, Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man and not willing to make her a public example, was mindful to put her away publicly. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary, thy wife, for that which she has conceived is of the Holy Ghost, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. So here the angel's message gives guidance and a look into the future. It also shows how God is aware of our thoughts, because the angel appears at just the right time to give the solution to Joseph's thoughts. Another time, when Daniel is praying, and it is recorded in Daniel 9:20-22, and while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yea, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, who I had seen in a vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am come to give thee skill and understanding. Then in the rest of the chapter, the angel gives prophetic information to Daniel, which Bible scholars have studied and pondered for years. This is also an instance that confirms angels do have wings, As it said, the angel flew in swiftly and touched Daniel and told him of things to come. All right. Also in Revelation 8:13, and I beheld and heard a third angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of this earth, by reason of the other voice, the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. And again, confirming that angels do fly. Another role of angels is to worship. Nehemiah 9:6 says, You are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their hosts, the earth and all that is in this, the seas and all that are in them, and you preserve all of them, and the hosts of heaven worship you. Revelation 7:11, and all the angels were standing around the throne and around the elders and the four living creatures, and they fell on their faces before the throne and worshiped God. A role of angels is to worship. However, they are not to be worshiped. In Revelation 19:10, John is told not to worship an angel. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said to me, See, thou doest not. I am a fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Now in Colossians 2:18 in the New Testament, we are told not to be deceived. Let no man beguile you of your reward of an involuntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he has not seen, vainly puffed up in his fleshly mind. And that's the King James version of the text. And I'm going to read the English Standard Version, which says in Colossians 2:18, Let no one disqualify you, insisting on asceticism and worship of angels, going on in detail about their visions, puffed up without reason by his sensuous mind. The Strong's Concordance defines puffed up as to inflate, make proud, haughty. Another definition is someone who's arrogant, vain, or proud and wants to appear better than they are. Acts 2:17 reads, And it shall come to pass in the last day, says God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. In Joel 2:28, And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see vision. In these verses, we hear that God's people will see visions and dream dreams, both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. So I'm believing visions still happen. However, I want to suggest a caution to us all. And when we hear someone tell of their vision or of having seen angels, that we check that their belief agree with biblical teaching. Some religions and denominations have claimed to see an angel and build their church or organization doctrine on conversational time they say they've had with an angel. Now, who's claimed to see angels? Joseph Smith claimed to see the angel Moroni. Muhammad claimed to see the angel Gabriel. And there are also probably cults who claim visions, and yet their behavior and their treatment of their followers goes way against the scripture. Psalms 103:20 says, Bless the Lord, O you his angels, you mighty ones, who do his word, obeying the voice of his word. So for myself, and you might consider this, I would check out if their doctrine obeys the word of the Lord, and if those who claim to have received his message, if that is really from the Lord's angel. As it says in Psalms 103, angels do his word and obey the voice of his word. I have shared scriptures about people seeing angels in dreams, visions, and in real life. And I want to end sharing a verse where people may not know they have seen an angel. Hebrews 13:2. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware. So, in other words, these people were ignorant to the fact that they had actually seen an angel. It was hidden from them. After reading the last verse, I suggest we all be kind and hospitable, as we never know who we might be entertaining. In this presentation, I realized I haven't given verses to answer all the questions or the things we have wondered about angels. There is so much more information given in the Bible that we could not cover it in this short time. So I hope this will just serve as a motivation for you to study and find these answers for yourselves. Bible concordances and even the internet will list Bible verses pertaining to angels. There are also books written by angels by many authors that are available for sale or in public, church, or university libraries. So I wish you well on this story. Well, if you want to view this program again, you can Google Lucy Met Production YouTube, and my Showcase of Churches will appear. Blessings to you, and thank you for joining me again on Showcase of Churches.